Hello, hello, hello. How are you, Elizabeth?
I'm
Hello.
great. How are you?
I am so good. Let's get these pesky introductions out of the way. For people who don't know me, I'm Kristen Gutierrez, a best-selling author of Be a Better Sales Leader over my shoulder, if you can see it. I'm an international keynote speaker. I'm a vice president of sales and marketing. And I'm the host of this Confident Leadership series that we stream to several platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, to help inspire and encourage others to get out of their own way and do the damn thing. And anyway, I'm here with you today, Elizabeth Blast. So why don't you introduce yourself to everyone watching?
Oh my goodness, that was quite an introduction. It's a tough act to follow. I am a two-time chief customer officer. I have I always like to say I've been doing customer success through my whole career, just back before we called it customer success. So I have a passion for leading teams, helping customers find solutions to solve problems, and really, really passionate about taking charge of your own career. So thank you so much for having me.
I love it. I love it. It's so great to have you here because we have known each other only a couple months now, right?
It's true.
Yes, and it was instant connection. We met on LinkedIn. I absolutely love that. And so, this topic for today's series on managing your own career, I know is very near and dear to both of our hearts. So, if you're watching this live and in the replay, go ahead and drop your comments. A lot of times they're shown here on the platform that we're streaming from. So we will try to address anything you have live. Otherwise, we'll respond to all questions after. But let's get this started, right, Elizabeth? From your perspective, big, broad question. How do you make yourself indispensable to your organization?
Yeah, I love that question. I mean, look, we're all busy. I get it. And, I think the world moves faster and faster, every year that we move into. But I think you have to see the areas of opportunity, not just come up with the ideas. Ideas are great, by the way, but come up with the idea to address a gap that you see for a customer in a process, maybe with a team dynamic, whatever floats your boat. And then also volunteer to help address that issue. You should focus on the things where you have a passion, right? Because I think that really comes through if you're working on an improvement area. But I did that really early on in my career, not realizing, I guess, how it would help me, but just because I was interested in making improvements and helping drive the business. So I think you've got to speak up, and don't speak up just thinking, oh, I can hand that idea off to someone. Everyone's busy. So
Mhm.
really, I think be intentional about the projects or initiatives that you get involved with.
Okay, I love this, right? So I consider it a two-prong approach to becoming indispensable and then also growing beyond your current role, right?
Mm,
So, like, are you an individual contributor looking to just climb up the ladder of contributing individually because the world needs that forever? Or do you want to grow into a leadership role and you're constantly turned down for them because you don't have leadership experience yet? Or you're looking to go from the manager to the director or the director up, right? Okay, so two-prong approach. So let's dig into this first prong, which you've identified as the internal initiatives and volunteering your time, right? I mean, I think there's so much here because the word volunteering, you have to be able to say to your boss, your leader, your colleagues, your cross-functional teams, I can do this other thing in addition to what my current role is. So do you have an example of a time that you've done that, or can you just talk through really what that means a little bit more?
yeah. Well, I love that you say, you have the idea and you're taking it to your boss, your peers, your, other departments. I think the thing to remember, which is hopefully a little less daunting, is just because you have the idea and I say you should get involved, I don't mean just you, like you bring in a buddy, like, hey, I know you care about this too. Let's present a plan and work on it. And don't do it in a vacuum. I want to be clear that I'm not saying that you see an issue and you work to go solve it and then, bring it back and show people, make sure you are talking to your leaders and talking through, this is what I see. Do you agree? Do you agree this is a priority? And then here's what I'm thinking. Here's who I'm thinking I can work with along the way to address it.
Yes.
Because I don't know, I find it helpful to talk through what not to do in addition to, what has been useful. And I definitely have had team members come in and start a new role and they're really excited, which is fantastic. But they have ideas even before they've learned the job, the customers, the culture. And in some cases, I've had them kind of running off and pursuing projects that are not in line with either vision or just priority. And so the last thing you want for your team members or for yourself is wasted effort. I'm an efficiency freak, by the way. And so like wasted effort is just really one of the worst things. And so I think making sure that communication, even if you're doing it for the first time and just kind of feeling it out, right? That communication is really, really important. And then finding, like I said, a buddy, if you don't know people well, it's an opportunity to kind of reach across, to different departments and find those people that maybe have similar interests. Because, likely there are so many gaps in any organization that you could pursue.
Yes.
So just some tips on how to think about that.
Yes. So like validate, get buy-in, validate. It's a constant cycle. This is actually like, while you're saying all of this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I won a Stevie Award for an innovation framework I created in order to drive sales down the path with a client in a way of like constantly iterating and validating along the process. And I'm realizing now that this framework can be applied when people are looking, I'm new, brand, you and I are both less than 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Brand new to our current roles.
That's why I have a large coffee, by the way.
Cheers. I just spilled mine all over my face right before we started. But like, there's so much about, yes, you have these ideas and you've seen what's worked somewhere else, but building these internal relationships, right, through the onboarding process and across the 4, 10, whatever many years we're going to be at the organization, because you rise by lifting others, or like, what's that saying about tides? Lift all boats kind of a thing.
I'm the worst at sayings. I will get it wrong. I'm not even going to attempt, but I know what you're talking about.
I shouldn't either. So nonetheless, like there's this point where you're iterating and you're validating all constantly with your leader, with the cross-functional leaders who will be impacted by this idea that you're pushing forward. And then there's this idea that, don't do it alone. Make sure you're bringing in your people from other departments. It's so key, right? Because the more departments supporting the initiative, truly the more likely that the outcomes will be relevant.
Yes.
And that they'll actually like this innovative project will actually stick around and have the right impact.
Yes. And can I mention a couple of non-sexy ways also to make yourself indispensable?
Yes.
Follow through. I feel like we don't talk about this enough, but the whole old, do what you say you're going to do. People aren't consistently good at this. And I learned, I had in my young leadership career as it was starting, oh gosh, I had the best mentors that really instilled this into me. What did we commit to? Have we done it? Have we told people, why if we're late, that kind of thing. And so that was really drilled into me. And it's so important, people, if you are really making yourself indispensable, people know that you are going to do, they can trust you. If you say, oh, I'll do that, they know that you will. And you're building that brand, that can go all the way through your career. But the follow through. We've talked a bit about communication, but broadly, just, communicating needs and ideas, that kind of thing, I think.
Yes. No, I mean, accountability, follow through. Like I love it. And you're right. Like, cause I'm thinking like, ooh, do we go next to personal branding because it's such a hot topic? Or okay, let's go to this other place first and then come back to personal branding, which is the second prong to making yourself indispensable, i.e. managing your own career. So we've got the internal prong, or pillar, right, which is multifaceted, right? We talked about some of the aspects there: follow through, accountability, initiatives, cross-functional collaboration. Now there is this other prong, which is externally, right? So external to your organization, how do you make yourself indispensable, right? And how do you manage your career? My opinion is it's based on industry events that you can dedicate time to, associations, conferences, podcasts, webinars, right? And maybe as a chief customer officer or as a VP of sales, then there's like a horizontal. So there's industry stuff you can get involved in, and there's the horizontal. But let's talk about the industry stuff. Elizabeth, how many conferences did you speak at in 2022?
Oh, in 2022? 0.
Okay. And how many? Yeah, talk with us about your journey, because how many have you spoken at now in 2023?
I have spoken at 3, I believe. One internationally. That was very fun. Yeah, I don't know how far we want to go with this, but there's okay, I need to think about, okay, don't let me go too far, but I will just say, because we're both starting new roles right now, I'm reading this book, The First 90 Days, and I will get back to the point, by the way. But one of the things I love in this book is it talks about, as you're starting, with the new company, there's like an analysis that you can do to like your strengths, the areas you're comfortable with, and the areas you like, and the things that you don't either know as well or like working on as much. And it's this whole assessment that you can do. And so the reason why I love it is it's a reminder, right? Like, we all have limited time. And so where do you want to focus? And you really should focus on the areas where you want to grow. And so that I love that. And I'm trying to keep that in mind, as I'm moving forward with my new role. But in the past year, I've been kind of thinking about that too. Like, what are the areas that I just haven't been as involved with for a variety of reasons? I've just kind of let other people, maybe go to the conference and speak, and I put my energy elsewhere. And over the summer, I started getting really much more involved in like the customer success community. And we can talk, that's probably a different topic, but communities, amazing. And so I thought, all right, well, I got asked to speak at a conference, and I wouldn't have considered that really. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And we kind of talked about topics, and for that particular conference, I didn't actually end up speaking because we decided there was some other gap, whatever. But that you did something in my brain, like, oh, I was asked to speak at a conference like that. Maybe that would be interesting. I don't have a lot of experience. That would be a nice way to kind of stretch those skills and experiences. So I reached out, to a conference that I was interested in attending, and asked if they needed speakers, and they said, yes, come on over. So that just kind of opened the doors, and I got more involved in speaking engagements, live conferences. I've done a podcast, I'm involved in, a few other things. So it's new. This here with you today is, a new format that I have not done before.
Yes,
so.
I love that. I love that. So there's this whole concept of, right, you mentioned the word communities, and that you got involved in this customer success community, which is this external, right, to your current, wherever you work, but it's within your role. And so there's communities and there's associations, right? And then there's the podcast and all the other things. And it's like, it doesn't matter in your case that somebody, you kind of got involved through the back door, and then you realized, maybe I have some thought leadership to share, right? Because as a chief customer officer, as a VP, right, we are experts in, but that isn't to say that one of my former direct reports, who was simply an individual contributor, she too, because she was in the industry 10 years and all these things, smartest person I know, actually wrote the foreword in my book, right? And we worked very diligently in the course of 9 months to identify the core conference she wanted to speak at, and then how to backdoor herself into speaking at the conference, because conferences have call for papers, and it's like usually an elongated process to identifying all these things. So it doesn't matter, I guess, whether you stumble into it or whether you purposefully look for it. It creates thought leadership around you as a personal brand, right? That follows you then with all these traits of accountability and follow through and empathy and etc. That follows you wherever you work. And it brings the value back to your organization, right? And I actually counted it up the other day. So I did one conference in 2022, one speaking engagement. I decided to write the book this year and all the things, right? 23 events in 2023. Oh, that's
wow. Great. 23 for 23. I like that.
Maybe it was
that's
like
22.
Yeah. And again, it's podcasts, it's webinars, right? But it's external associations and events and conferences and things that support the internal wherever I work.
Yeah.
Right. So I just think there's like this something really interesting here. So let's talk a little bit about personal branding, what that means to you. Let's start there. What does that mean to you?
Oh, what does that mean? Oh gosh, that's a hard one for a Thursday morning. I mean, for me, my thing is if I'm putting out content or discussion, whatever it may be, I just am hoping that it's helping someone with something, right? So my, personal brand to me is obviously how people think of me, what I contribute kind of to the world. And hopefully, I'm very passionate about customer success and customers in general. And so, working towards becoming a CS thought leader and just someone that can help navigate difficult, either, from a management perspective or customer perspective. I guess that's a long answer, Kristen, but it's how people view you about, how you contribute to the world.
I love it. I think that's great. I think it's a great answer. How does the network, like how does our individual networks, or how do we build, and is like the network the same as the community? Are we actually in effect on LinkedIn curating our own community by those that we're connecting with and staying in touch with?
Yeah. Gosh, is the network the community? That's really good. I'm so passionate about this. Like I was really heads down, not involved for many years with my last job. I was all about, my team, my company, and just in my bubble. And so I think that I don't like to have regrets. I have some regrets about that, just because now that I've gotten more involved, it is just helping in every aspect of my work life. And so I wonder, right, had I been involved sooner, how might that have changed decisions and approaches and all of the things. So I think that you should absolutely not do what I did, and you should get involved in communities and on LinkedIn, and get content out and engage with others. You should do it while you're learning a new job, while you're in the middle of your new job, while you're looking for your next opportunity. I have met incredible people, nice people, smart people, people who are so willing to give of their time and knowledge, or just listen. And so I think it's just incredible what's possible. I do think that kind of a part of your network, probably is your community. There's lots of people that when I was considering my next career move, that I would reach out to on LinkedIn and say, hey, I know we haven't talked in a really long time, but could you introduce me to so and so? And those are connectors, which is really helpful. And I loved reconnecting with some of those people. But they're more of my network. They're not the people that I would probably go to, each week or, frequently to really engage with. So I think your network is important. Your community is really the people within your network who you maybe have shared experiences, or I'm responsible for revenue now, and so like my sales buddies, shout out to my rev room people, and to you, Kristen, and to all the people in my world who have been doing sales for a long time. I think that's part of filling the gap too. So just how you structure your community is really, a subset, but is important, and probably always evolving, because you meet one person and that flows into another opportunity or another introduction. And so it's just, I think it's an exciting thing, because you never know who you're going to meet, right? That could become really, really important in your career or just your life, really.
Like me meeting you. I know.
Yeah, just we connected over time management. I mean,
oh, by the way, you have to follow Elizabeth on LinkedIn, because she comes up with the most creative carousels right now based on rom-coms as it relates to customer success. Huge fan. It's like a thing. Yes. But I don't want to come too far away, because that was so multifaceted and really like fascinating. And we have like so little time left. But you were talking about the thing where it's like, do it now, do it in the middle of trying to figure it out. Because I think that there's two types of people. There's you and me and all the other type of people who wasted the time, right? Like I get it. I just did a post the other day. Like I was constantly looking for fulfillment. And ironically, I think this thought leadership is what brings us fulfillment and like gives us more of a purpose as to why we're doing the thing we're doing for 40 plus hours a week, every single week, right? It's being able to have a voice and share your expertise in a thought leadership capacity. Because for years I was simply just chasing a new role, a new company, more money, like grass is always greener kind of a thing. But I constantly felt lost. And I was somewhere for like 6 years simply as an individual contributor. And so the regret that you have, I can only empathize with, right? Because we're not going to dwell there, but you have a chance. Everyone who isn't this type of person, right? Who's kind of already now so far down our career, and no matter where you are, just starting or 20 years in, you have an opportunity to do it now while you're figuring it out. And that's where coaches and mentors come in place, and your network and asking around, and that's kind of like why this is so fascinating to me, because, there's so much opportunity for people to lend what they know and their perspective. And wouldn't you know it, you've been on panels recently, right? The 3 panels, and it's all about having a different perspective.
Yeah.
No conference organization wants to put on a panel where everybody shares the same thoughts.
Yeah.
It's boring.
A little spice is good.
Yeah, or a lot. Okay, so I don't know, like it's hard to say, but like closing thoughts, like how do we wrap this up? This is really interesting conversation, but
I know, I wish we had more time. I think the thing, because this is managing your own career, that the last thing that I will say that we haven't talked about too much is maybe 2 things. One, I like to think about my career in like 5-year chunks. And, and sometimes I forget about that and navigate away from it. But if you think about your career in that way, it's kind of easier to make sure that you're kind of staying on track, whatever that means for you. And I think the other thing is don't hesitate to ask for what you want. My last role, I became a chief customer officer because I walked into my CEO and said, hey, I think we need a chief customer officer. I think that should be me. And he said, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'll never know if that was true, but maybe we were just that aligned. But you have to just, throughout your career, right, just ask for what you want.
Yes, I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that. Do you want me to go there, or should we end there? I think we can end there, right? Okay. If anyone wants to continue the conversation, obviously we're both willing and able, and like would welcome that opportunity. I also have a free Facebook group where we're starting to bring in people who are currently leading and or future leaders to talk about things like this all the time. And I have a pay to play community where we help leaders kind of grow beyond their role. So Elizabeth, thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Yes. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Can you believe it? How many working days are left? Like 5 if you're some people.
No, stop. So let's go back out of reality.
All right. Have a great day. Safe travels.
Thank you. Take care.